Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa. Welcome back to the channel. I am an indie author and I publish under the pen name A and Sage. I write a lot of YA, mostly magical realism, fantasy, sci-fi, and anything that's out of this world really. And today we're back for another episode of Sage Advice. If you're not familiar with this little series I'm making, it's basically me talking about some of the mistakes that I say some, but there was a lot. The mistakes that I made when I first started indie publishing and writing in general. And I kind of let you know what they were in hopes that they might help you either avoid these mistakes or kind of work your way around them if you absolutely must follow the same path that I did. I am eternally grateful for all the things that I learned, the way that my career has unfolded as an author. But there are a few things that if I could take them back, I wouldn't necessarily take them back, but I would maybe do them a little bit differently. Let's just say that. And today we are going to be talking about cover design. I'm sure you've heard me talk about cover design quite a lot. It is something that I also do. So my career is kind of split down the middle where I author on one side and then I create cover design for authors, for indie authors, for publishers on the other side of it. If you are interested in getting a custom cover design, contact me in the link below. It's Cauldron Press Designs. That is the name of my cover design business. And I'm currently booking people for the month of September. I usually get booked out about 3 to 4 months ahead. So if you want to snag a spot, now's the perfect time. Or if you are looking for a premades, make sure to join my Facebook group for the cover design that I'll also link in the description below. So before we get started with Sage Advice, I know you guys have been with me for this battle of finding a new camera, and we have it. This is it. I'm filming on a brand new camera. I ended up selling all my old equipment, and I got the Canon M50. I think it's plenty for what I need to use. I'll probably end up upgrading the lens. I will do maybe a filming setup video at some point, but I want to get more comfortable with the camera and just how I want it to look. So hopefully you guys like it. I love the quality so far. We'll see how it goes. It's the first video, but I think it's leaps and bounds from like the camcorder and all the other stuff that I tried. I did go through a few cameras and I tested them out. And this is the one I think that is the most budget friendly and perfect for anything that I might need here on this channel and just outside of it as well. So now Sage Advice. Covers. It's a kind of a touchy subject for me. When I first started and I started publishing the Etherborn series, I loved the covers that I had. They were very symbolic, very minimal, like the backgrounds were very like white and then there was like a symbol on the front for each book. The typography was really cool and kind of went with what was part of the book. And I really, really love them. But I didn't do enough research. And that is my first point is before you choose a cover for your book or before you start looking for a cover designer, make sure you do your research. So make sure that you are looking at other covers out there and not just the covers in your genre, because I know we already all do this, but take a look at indie covers versus trad covers. This is where the touchy subject comes in. I know a lot of people say different things. Everybody has an opinion on whether indie covers or indie books in general should be held to the same regard as traditionally published books. And I have my own opinions on it. I'll leave it out of this video. But I will say when it comes to covers, there seems to be a different route taken for the most part, and depending on the genre, of course, between indie published books and trad published books. I don't have a preference for either one. They both are great in their own different ways, but do your research. For me, I was an indie author and I went for book covers that looked more traditional. And so there was a different expectations on them. And I found that my sales hurt because when it came to my book ranking in the different stores, I was being clumped in with all the other really well-selling indie authors and indie books out there, but my covers didn't look like theirs. And there is a good thing to standing out. Of course, you want to stand out, but it also didn't tell my readers what to expect from books. The book was an NA urban fantasy. and the cover is read as like epic or high fantasy. And that is not something you want, right? It was a completely different genre. So make sure you do your research and make sure that you really, really know what is expected by the readers, by your readers inside your genre. Then what you want to do, or at least what I should have done, no mistakes, is figure out if you're going to have an ebook, a paperback, or a hardback, or if you're going to have all three. Now, the mistake part of what I did was I had all three right away. I was a new author. I wanted it all, and I get it. I get the feel, like that amazing feeling that you get when you have like a copy of your book in your hands, a paperback or a hardcover or whatever. But that, for me at least, from my perspective, was not the smart way to go. What I should have done was just gotten the covers done and put out the books in ebook format and see how they sell. Then I would have avoided this whole fiasco of having to recover an ebook, a paperback, a hardback, the whole thing, right? And rebrand all of that. I would have just started fresh. When I saw that these covers were not working in the ebook market, I would have taken a step back and thought, okay, let me try a new cover for the ebook, see how it goes. And then from there, I can get a paperback and a hardcover. And I think that's just a good way to try things out in general, even if you already know what cover you want. With Shadowhurst, for example, I released all of the books first on ebook, or at least the first book I released on ebook, Witch of Shadows. Saw how it did. It went really well. It got really good reviews, good feedback, etc. And then I started putting out the paperbacks. Now all the books in Shadowhurst are available in paperback. However, I won't be bringing in a hardcover for quite some time. If you've seen the other Sage Advice where I talked about like aggregators and ways to distribute, I'm a little bit weary of doing a hardcover right now just because of the returns. Like if you want to be carried in a store, again, you don't have to. You can just say no returns, don't do a discount, and just do a hardcover. And I think that might be the route that I'll take, but I still want some time to think about. I also want to see if my readers even want the hardcover. So at first what I did was I saw if the ebooks sell, then put out the paperbacks. I'm going to seeing now in the process if the paperbacks sell, and as the paperback sales pick up, then I can say, okay, now it's time to test the hardcover. So just give it time. Don't rush into it. You don't have to do all three at the same time. You'll get a lot of advice out there that says like if your book has all the different formats, then you will stand back to back next to the traditionally published books and it will look indistinguishable. And that is true because you have readers that want different formats, of course. But I mean, if you don't know if your books are selling yet, if you're a new author and you just want to test out if the story that you have written is even something people want, there's no point of putting out all of the different formats before seeing if your book actually sells. At least that's my opinion. So then now that you've done your research, you decided which format you want your covers to be in, it's time to pick a designer. Now this can be daunting and it's a very, very exciting but also nerve-wracking way of doing things. I know that for me, I'm lucky that I can do my own covers, of course, but for Cortega, for example, I had to hire an illustrator because I really wanted like an illustrated cover. And so interviewing illustrators, seeing samples of work, it kind of worked the same way for me as it would for somebody picking a designer. You want to pick somebody, obviously, that has a good portfolio, that you can see the kind of stuff they've done, the other authors they worked with. Word of mouth is great. Any recommendations is really good. But also pick somebody that you gel with on the personality level, just somebody that you can have no problem asking questions, or if something that you don't like, you don't feel uncomfortable saying you don't like it, just a good rapport is very, very important. Now, also, if you are starting out and you might not be able to afford a designer, I mean, I have talked about in the past, there's ways to do a cheaper kind of alternative to cover design, like premades, for example, a great way to do this. If there's a way that you can get a professionally designed cover, I think you should always choose that route. However, if you just want to see if like your stories, I have nothing, there's a drama always about like people putting books out without getting it like professional covers, professional editing, etc. I get both sides. I really do. I understand why it's important to have these things professionally done, why it gives your book a better chance of getting out there, why it prevents bad reviews. I completely get it, but I also get starting out and not having a budget, right? Because I've been there. You just want to see if anybody even wants to read your stuff. So it's important to kind of stretch that budget as much as you can. So even if you are not going with a professional designer and you're going to try and attempt to do this yourself, a couple of tips on that. Make sure you are buying your stock images and you're checking the licenses for all the images that you're using. Please do not use like the Pexels, the Unsplash, and all of those like free sites. They don't guarantee model releases. If you're having a model, they don't really guarantee that you have exclusive rights to even use this for a commercial product, and your book is a commercial product. So just make sure you're going about it, that part the right way. And that goes for your marketing too. Just as a complete side note, if you're doing like those reels for like character inspirations or book inspirational and stuff, if you're putting it anywhere on social media to promote your book, and you're getting those images from like Pinterest or something like that, that is definitely illegal. I know there's a sea of them out there, so it's really hard to monitor that stuff, but anything you're using to promote a commercial product, you need to have the right license for the images you use to promote it. And so you have to make sure that you are using stock images and stock images that are paid for and come with that license. So just something to think about. And the same is if you are designing your own cover, the same goes for typography. Depending on which fonts you use, every font comes with a license. So if you're going to attempt to do this yourself, just go back to that research phase again and research how you're going to do it. And try to get your cover as close as possible to what you see other people with professionally designed covers out there having, but make sure it's all legal, obviously. Then when you do pick your designer, if you choose to go with one and you're not attempting to do this yourself, it is less of a headache that way, I'll tell you that much. You be prepared to provide some samples. Have some book covers that you like. Your designer will not be hopefully copying these covers, but you want to show them kind of like what you like, what you think is good, and then they'll come back to you and they'll say, okay, this is one looks really great. However, based on like what you told me about your book, it might not fit the genre. You're going to have a very knowledgeable designer. Hopefully that's who you go with, and they should be able to steer you in the right direction. When I work with my clients, I give them advice from anything from like covers to even like formatting, which is also something I do, but like sizes of their hard copies and paperbacks and stuff. So I try to offer as much of my knowledge and what I've learned over the years as I could without being overbearing, of course, just like hey, just a heads up that you might want to know this. And if you have a designer that does that, it's really helpful. It helps develop the trust, but then you also know that they really do have your best interest at heart, and they don't want you to put a book out there that's not going to succeed because it looks bad on them as well. So when you are working with a designer, let's say you have like the book cover and they give you like that first draft, ask them if you can, while it's still marked, they usually you do like a marking on it so that you are not releasing in their low res files, so it's not the high res files that you get, but ask them if you're allowed to kind of like show that to maybe a reader group or other authors to see their opinion. Make sure you check with your designer first, but I would definitely recommend testing those covers. So you want to see what your readers or potential readers or even author friends or anybody that might enjoy the genre that you're writing in, you want to see how they feel about these covers. And so showing them even like a watermarked low-res version just to kind of get their thoughts and get somebody else's opinion. Family members are also good for this, depending on how your family handles this kind of stuff. I use my partner a lot for like a second eye. He's great at pointing stuff out that I wouldn't have seen. And so just try to test them out and see before you commit to it. And also before your designer goes ahead and works completely for the final cover, and then you have edits. It's a lot easier to do the edits as you move along. When I work with my authors, I include them every step of the way, and so every single small step that we take, I try to get their perspective, their opinion on it, because I find that as we move along, instead of me just being like, okay, oh, that's what you want, here's a cover, I get their viewpoint, their ideas, and that eliminates so much of the edit process afterwards. Then we're just tweaking at the end, right? Small little things here and there, and they get the exact cover that they want, and I get to give that to them, still with my opinions and what I think kind of mixed into the whole process. And then kind of like the last thing, and this is a funny one, I guess, don't be precious with your book covers. Just the way you wouldn't be precious with your books when you're editing them or when you're getting beta readers or alpha readers, the same goes for covers. Just because you like what a certain cover looks like, or you have this like idea and the designer or somebody else tells you like, hey, that might not work in your genre, don't kind of have your back up and be like, well, no, because I like this and it works with my book and stuff. Give yourself permission to listen to what other people are saying, and then take it in and see if you agree with it or not. The same goes with like if you're having people on the cover. Chances are, whatever character you have in your head for your main character or whoever you're having on the cover, that person is fictional and their exact carbon copy does not exist out there in the world. You made them up in your head, in your story. And so you might not have an exact replica of who you're picturing. You're probably going to come very, very close, based on like renders or stock models and stuff like that. You're going to come pretty point on if you're using an illustrated cover and somebody is drawing your character. But if you're using more of a photo manipulated cover, which is very popular now, just be okay with certain things not being just exactly like, maybe their nail color is not exactly what you wanted, because chances are on a book cover, nobody's going to notice that. Nobody's zooming in on those tiny little details unless the detail is very specific to the story. There's no point of having it in there. If the designer doesn't think it's going to work, they'll let you know, and be okay with that. Especially if you have small details, like if you have a character that has like a tiny pinky ring or something, but the entire scene of the cover is very zoomed out, you won't see that. Like you won't see that there's like a tiny pinky ring, especially on the thumbnail, right? And so just kind of trust that your designer will make sure that your cover looks good in the size that it's in, but also in thumbnail. You want to make sure that on your cover, the things that grab your attention are the title, obviously, and the main character or symbol, depending on what kind of cover you have, that is on the front. Those are the things that are going to be the most visible on the thumbnail. And that's exactly what's going to catch the reader's eyes. So, I mean, our books are babies. The covers are kind of an extension of those babies, but sometimes our babies need the chance to roam free. And so just let them do their thing. Feel free to pick it apart, and kind of don't be too precious with it. I think that's an important one. So yeah, that's what I have for this episode of Sage Advice. If you're looking for covers for your upcoming book or release, let me know what genre you're writing in, what you're leaning towards. If you have a cover you really love that you've had done for your book, definitely show it to me. Send me links to your books. I'd love to see them. I always love to see indie authors and authors in general just succeed in this very populated space. And I always want to add new books to my TBR. So send me your links for your books and I will check them out. So with that said, I hope you guys stay magical and I will see you for next week's episode. Bye.